Are you starting to have anxiety to go outside? Well, that's not a feeling that you want to ignore. You see, the thing about anxiety is it can come on very gradually in terms of severity. If you're starting to have anxiety in public spaces or school or friends or driving, the temptation is to start to give up those territories, to start doing less of those things that you're feeling anxious to do. That's only natural, right? But the problem with that is the more you isolate with anxiety, the harder it is to get back that territory that you've given up. This leads to something that we call agoraphobia. And if you're dealing with agoraphobia and you're already at the point where you have maybe a panic attack when you want to leave the house, then you know what I'm talking about. If you're just at that early stage where you're starting to have more anxiety and you're thinking about maybe I don't want to leave the house, maybe you start canceling on plans that you've made with friends. These are some of the early warning signs that you want to be on the lookout for because you're starting to give up territory. You're starting to let go of those social contracts, those commitments, the things that you've invested yourself into. And it's always harder to get that territory back later. But if you happen to find yourself in a position where maybe you have been isolating more, maybe you're starting to have more anxiety with leaving the house, it's definitely a good time to call in the cavalry. And that could mean getting a therapist who understands anxiety. And there's different approaches to working with agoraphobia or anxiety in general. I happen to be a fan of cognitive behavioral therapy. But typically, what you'll find when you start to work with a therapist is habituation work. Sometimes it's called exposure therapy, but it's important to start the process with someone who can work with you on getting that territory back. If you're not sure where to get started, if you don't already have a therapist, you can head over to Psychology Today Therapist Finder. You can just Google that, and then you can filter by issues. You would put anxiety, and then go from there. If you have a particular insurance, be that Medi-Cal or an HMO, you can also filter for insurance there and by your local zip code or your entire state if you're open to telehealth. So lots of options. Important thing is to know you're not alone. If you happen to be a therapist working with a client who is starting to exhibit some symptoms of social isolation in conjunction with anxiety, it's important to start assessing for the risk of agoraphobia, or if you're already dealing with a client who has agoraphobia, definitely look into maybe starting some work around habituation and habituation skills. It's a great approach, and you can start small. The risk and the temptation is for someone experiencing agoraphobia is they get sick and tired of being sick and tired, and then they just decide they're going to go for it, and then they bite off more than they can chew. It creates a lot of discomfort, panic attacks, and they end up becoming more isolated. The trick with habituation and doing a habituation scale is that you're doing little by little and you're doing it in the supportive environment of a therapist, and you can process the experience, all right, in a safe way. So, hope that was helpful. If you need a therapist, you should find one. Obviously, this is psychoeducation, is for your entertainment and education. This is not advice, it's just FYI. Okay, so I hope you're having a great week. If you would like to share in the comments what's been working for you, or if you've been dealing with anxiety, or if you're to leave the house, please feel free to share what coping skills have worked for you. And if there's anything I missed, feel free to fill it in. Appreciate it. You have a great day. And there's another tool for your toolbox. Take care. Bye-bye.